Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Friday edition of Conversations with Al McFarlane. I've been monitoring our feed both on Facebook and on YouTube. So I welcome you who join us via YouTube. If you're on my channel, subscribe and like and share. We want to grow this channel, grow this platform for engagement, for connecting with you and for connecting us to the digital world. If you're watching on Facebook, thank you for being there. Also, comment your thoughts, your comments. We're monitoring the stream, the comment stream, and like and share. You can start a watch party. Fridays, we call the Healing Circle. We do this in conjunction with our relationship with Dr. Brevada Garrett Akinsanya and the team at the African American Child Wellness Institute. Dr. B isn't going to be on today, but her phenomenal team is here. Pleased to have our colleagues Anita Stewart and Zoe Severson and Sherilyn McNeil LaChapelle from the African American Child Wellness Institute project here. Joining me too, my colleague at Inside News and McFarlane Media, Brenda Gray. Brenda, how you doing? And hopefully we'll have our young intern, Lily Rankin, on within the next few minutes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, Nita, I'm going to throw this to you first and have you set up today's conversation. Dr. B asked us to, and you all, to weigh in on the, I want to say it the right way, so I'll let you say it, on well, you take it from there.
It's a model that was developed by Dr. Prochaska and Clementi, Di Clementi, and it was developed so that practitioners would have a format to gauge when
No, I'm not hearing your voice now.
I'm not either.
Okay.
I could jump in.
Go ahead, please.
It's a format used by clinicians, and that's both physical and mental health clinicians, to determine a person's readiness for change. There's several stages that a person goes through before they before they make the change. They will kind of think about it when you bring it up. They will maybe consider it. There's like, what is it? Pre-contemplation, contemplation. Help me, Zoe.
Preparation, action, maintenance, and hopefully, but it generally does happen, relapse.
There you go.
So there are generally thought to be 6 stages. Generally, there are 5 main ones, and then the 6th, if there's that relapse, and then you kind of start over again.
Yeah, many times.
So why is this awareness important to you all as professionals? I'm understanding, I'm the layman here in the crowd, but you've got a process for observing and ushering people along what you call the stages of change. So let's go into each one of those, first of all, so we can have a sort of ordinary people's education and understanding. And would you guys sort of just walk us through each stage? And before you do that, what is the end game of this model of engagement from your profession? Sherilyn?
The end game is health and wellness. The end game is the person realizing their potential of making their wellness a reality. It's controlling your destiny and your health. We can't force you, okay, you got heart disease. I'm a nurse practitioner in 2 areas, mental health as well as in general surgery and cardiovascular. We tell you you've had a heart attack. We're gonna need you to stop smoking, stop eating fried foods. You have to start exercising, maybe walk a mile a day. You can start out slow. And the person's listening to this and they're thinking, I can't do that. And you keep telling them that, and you're really hitting a brick wall until you sit down with that person and ask them, what would it take for you to change? What would it take for you to help improve your health care? How can we help you? So you have to figure out what their motivation for change is. And so you can't do it. Go on, Zoe, I'm sorry.
No, that's right. So right before, like what she's saying, when doctors are telling patients or mental health therapists are talking with their clients about changing and making change, people are like in the pre-contemplation, they may be becoming aware of what's going on. People are telling them that they need to change. They may not have any awareness that they need to change. Like for high blood pressure, you may have had it for years. Doctors talked about it for years. It's just there. You're not really into it. They start to push on you a little bit more. That brick wall kind of starts to crumble a little bit. Then you get into the contemplation area where you start to go, well, maybe I do need to do something about, my blood pressure. Maybe I do need to do something about that anger or that anxiety or the depression that I'm going through. A lot of people are kind of pushing me on this. So there's the pre-contemplation, then you go into the contemplation about that you're actually kind of thinking and mulling it over in your head.
Well, contemplation, the person can be confused. So that's why the therapist has to walk them through the process. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of dissonance in contemplation. But pre-contemplation, the person is not aware that there's even a problem.
Exactly.
They might have the problem, but they're not aware of the problem.
Right.
And then you go through preparation. Once you go through contemplation, you go through preparation and you begin to teach, it's the teaching model. And so you help the person that you're working with to understand where they're at. You don't necessarily have to talk about, contemplation or preparation or anything like that. The therapist is more or less guiding them through a process by using this model to become more aware and to be equipped with what they're going through at that particular moment.
But the therapist is definitely seeing at this preparation stage that they are, the person is ready to make the change. Otherwise, they're just in that contemplation where they're kind of fighting against themselves and everybody else. And they want to, but they're not sure. And there's all sorts of things that go on there. But the preparation, which is often the spot that gets missed by a lot of people, that you do have to prepare to make any kind of change. Yes, you have to kind of think about it, ask for the help, think about, if you do make this change, what are going to be some of the things that you're going to have to give up and the benefits that you're going to have, and how you're going to live your life very differently potentially from what you currently are. And a lot of times we just think we can just jump into it from, okay, we've been contemplating it. Now we're going to change and we're going to be all good and perfect. And that's not how it works.
No,
you got to go through. You got to go through the whole process, because if you don't go through the whole process, there's a possibility of relapsing.
Well, even if you go through the whole process.
The model is not just used for mental health. It can be used for chemical dependency too.
And physical illness.
And other
health ailments
might have.
Yeah.
The person might have.
Gambling, anything. But also, you don't have to go through all of the stages before you relapse.
Right.
You are constantly
because the person may not be ready.
Right. But you are constantly trying to figure out what it is you should do. You're battling the whole time in your psyche with cost-benefit analysis.
Exactly.
If I give up fried food, and I do love that chicken, I just can't give up that chicken. And then you say, yeah, but I don't want to go back to the ICU. And so it's a dance that you do. And then finally, reality may or may not set in. And you say, okay, I'll have chicken once a week, not every night. And you're getting ready to take some action. You're making an action plan. You first have to make a plan on cutting back on the chicken. After you do that, you might do a week or 2 weeks of one fried chicken a week. Then you say, oh, I did that. I'm going to do 2 weeks. So now you're on your way, but you could have a fallout and relapse because here comes your family to visit. Fried chicken every day. So you don't have to get to the end of it to relapse.
It sounds like the person is still in the contemplation stage, because even though you might be aware of the problem, you're still not taking the action to do what you need to do to change.
No, they had taken action. They had cut back on the chicken.
But that's where the dissonance come in.
Well, cognitive dissonance, yes. But
yeah, the
even
person.
If
when you're working through the process with a client, there's a certain amount of dissonance, and so that person might think, well, I can do what you say do, but I also have my mind, and I may not do it.
How many of us have been on diets and then we have made up our mind every New Year's Day? We have made up their mind. Al, you can chime in on this one. Okay. And we have taken steps. We have joined the health club in St. Paul. We have been going good for a few months.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, boom, we go on vacation. That's what happens. We go on vacation. And while we're there, we're eating and drinking everything inside because we won't have a chance to get any of this food later. So cognitive, we just shut down. We don't even have cognitive dissonance then. We just put up the wall and said, when I get home, I'll get back on the wagon. So
in this model, Sherilyn, in this model, where the person is confused is
confused.
They still have other ideas playing in their head as to what they want to do. And so
they're not confused.
When they're still thinking that they want to do something, when they don't want to eat the chicken, somebody is influencing them.
There's triggers that happen
throughout themselves, their own addiction to fried chicken. Every time I've ever gotten on a diet, and I have made it last for a year.
Yes.
And I'm not confused at all. I may get tired of the routine, and then the old addiction to looking at TV, eating out, and eating fried chicken comes back. I'm not confused. I know it's a slippery slope as I'm sliding down the slope. Same thing that happens with addicts. They just one. If I just have one hit, a meth, and then I'm gonna leave it alone. I interned at Park Avenue. I know how that works. And no, it's a slippery slope. They're not confused. They're just thinking they could do it one time.
And that's part of the relapse.
Around your neck.
Yep. Until you really get into the maintenance part of it, and you've realized that, okay, I can't have that one hit. I can't have that one piece of chicken because I will slide down that slippery slope and get back into relapse. Ain't that the truth? And, so you need to realize that as you go through each of these stages, there's going to be potential relapse and bounce back. And you have to re-prepare and go, okay, well, why did I fail this time? And how am I going to, overcome that from the last time? And you keep moving. We're constantly changing. We're constantly going through the changes of change in our lives, whether it's with, addiction, death and dying, whether it's with, what's going on with COVID, our new way of life and how we deal with that, how we deal with racism in America. And it's changing, and people are constantly kind of going through, well, do I really want to change this? Do I really want to interact with these people? Do I really want to go down that path? How do I sustain it? Going back to how you feel about different people, like, ooh, that person just totally wronged me. Now you're thinking everybody's that horrible. And that's not always true. But just kind of realizing that we are always changing and that there are definite stages that people go through that are part of the process of changing. And it is a step. It's a step process.
And we have to realize what step they're at in order to try to help them find the motivation they need to move to the next step in a positive way. We can't force them, but we can try to find some additional motivation that's important to them. Like, I got to live for my grandchildren. I want to see my granddaughter graduate college or high school.
What's more of a pull for them, more of a reward?
let's
Yep.
do a refresh and count out the 6 stages again. So
Yep.
the first was contemplation, right?
Pre-contemplation.
Pre-contemplation. I'm writing this
Yep.
down. Okay.
Yep.
Number 2 is what?
Contemplation.
Okay.
And then
Contemplation.
preparation,
3 is preparation.
And now
action,
we're taking action.
Okay. Action.
And
maintenance,
then maintenance.
Okay.
and then relapse.
Relax. Yeah.
Relapse. Okay. And so
But you know,
maintenance is
I mean,
success, right?
Al,
hmm
but the thing about it is that, I mean, if a person is still struggling and they haven't even got through some of the other stages, they can actually relapse, but it doesn't mean that they have made any success in the other stages that they're supposed to go through.
And
But
oftentimes,
you can also be successful.
Yep.
Because
And that's
I
what
kept weight off for 2 years. 2 years, I was a gym rat. I did everything right. I ate healthy. And there came a time when I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of going to the gym. Al, we were
I was
on
in
the
the gym
same
with you.
program.
We were in
together
together,
for a
right?
while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were getting up at 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning. You do workouts, or
hats off to both of you. That's
evening
doing
That's
sessions.
action. That's going
And-
through
and
all of it.
In my
Oh, you
case,
should have
the
a frown
discovery
on that
of
one.
a heart ailment
Yeah.
stopped me in my tracks for the minute, and then it's now a challenge to get back into that
Yes.
routine. And so this conversation is really important to me because I'm dealing with how do I create an awareness of the changes I have to experience. I am experiencing and have experienced that keep me from my goal. And my goal, obviously, is how do I live as long as I can, as productively and as healthily as I can. That's my goal. I want to be here
And that's the
for a
hard
long
part
time and be functional and be
Yes.
healthy and be happy.
when you are on your game, and then life just tells you, nope, something
Throw your
happens, like you break
curveball.
your leg or something like that. And now you're like, I was doing so good. And you're
Yeah.
not really truly relapsing, but you definitely have to take a step back and look at the plan again and go, how am I going to get back to
Reevaluate.
maintenance?
Yeah.
And, and
Exactly.
get back on it. Yeah.
I
Exactly.
have a quick question. How does the stages fit into what's going on with COVID-19?
Oh, very well. People are sick. They've worn that mask. They've social distanced. They haven't seen their grandkids in almost a year, Al. And they are about at the point of breaking. It's like, okay, I've done this for a year. I can't take anymore. So they've gone all the way through, and they have been following the instructions. And now they said, look, this is when they fall off the wagon. And they start telling themselves, well, if I just go eat out in this restaurant, it won't be that big of a deal.
Close to somebody without my mask.
Yeah. And if you do that one time, then you're going out to going to visit friends, having friends over, grandkids are over. It's the same thing, no matter what it is, those stages and our excuses for falling off the wagon.
Is it the same thing with the vaccine, though?
Well, with the vaccine, we have people who, and I talked to somebody yesterday at Link, who are asking for guarantees if it works. They are saying, well, I don't believe it, I don't trust it. And yes, it's the same, because you've got to, first we answer all their questions and concerns. And this person kept asking for 100%. I said, baby, the only 100% is death, not even taxes. God is the only 100%. And I said, we've got diphtheria, we've got polio, we've got smallpox and other diseases you've never heard of, but you were immunized against as a child. That's why you don't know it exists. That's why your mother was alive to have you.
Oh, wow.
But that's the Brenda, that's the contemplation where the person is aware of the situation, they're aware of the problem, but they haven't made a commitment to the action itself.
And even for you doing the action, like getting the shot, let's say you got the first shot, say you're doing the 2-step. you could fall back and go, don't know if I'm going to do that. And you go back to contemplating and not, you could maybe consider it a relapse because you're feeling some shame.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say for this young person
on the 16th.
Okay.
We'll say this person, Brenda, he had made up his mind that it wasn't safe. And he asked me, have you heard of the blood of Jesus? I said, sure. I'm a Christian. I know all about it. But the Bible also says my people died because of lack of knowledge. And I'm giving you the knowledge right now to save yourself. And then, the joke about Jesus, I'm believing Jesus is going to save me. I'm drowning here. And then somebody comes past with a boat and says, get in. No, I'm waiting on Jesus. Then the Coast Guard comes. No, I'm waiting on Jesus. Then the helicopter comes. No, I'm waiting on Jesus. Then the person drowns and goes to heaven. And they say, Jesus, why didn't you save me? Well, heck, I sent the boat. I sent the Coast Guard. And I sent the helicopter. Finally, I said, they just obviously,
That's true. Well,
that is the truth.
I'm scheduled for the 16th to take my Moderna.
Good job.
The Moderna. They're all
I
good.
did too. And I had no side effects. I know some people do. They may have a sore arm, but a lot of people did not have any side effects. A little bit of a fever or headache, and that's okay. Exactly. You can get through it.
Because it shows your body's making an immune response to the vaccine.
Yep. And just because you don't feel anything doesn't mean that your body's not doing it either. Because I've heard that excuse too. That's it. Well, I got it. Now I didn't get nothing.
Some don't react.
Brenda, is that your first shot?
Yeah, I take it next week. And I was holding out for the Johnson, but it just doesn't make sense. And I've been trying to convince my daughters, and they're not buying, but that's okay. They got their
get it when you can. Yeah, they're grown.
That's right.
Their own journey. I'm taking the vaccine.
You get.
So
you do
let me ask you, Brenda. You and I are exactly the same age group. You could have gotten it earlier, right? But you chose not to, or not available in your area.
No. First of all, I had to take the the pneumonia shot.
Oh, pneumonia,
yeah, you got to take 2 weeks at least.
Pneumonia. I had to take that first, and I took that on the 4th of March because I really have been blessed to be healthy. But my doctor just put her foot down, and she just said, no, you're going to take the pneumonia first, and then you'll follow up with the vaccine. So I scheduled for the 16th.
Your doctor was saying stop the madness.
Dr. Ashur was on CBS, and there has been a lot of negative reaction to the Johnson & Johnson. But just like he said, they have vaccinated 5 million people with
more than that. More than that.
At this point, right?
Well, just with the Johnson.
Right.
Oh yeah.
That just came. And, he said, if you've got 24 people with negative reactions, that's still pretty good.
So a drop in the bucket.
And we have to protect ourselves. The GOP would just love for a lot of Black folks to die off by not
listen to this information and say that they're trying to get you.
Kill ourselves.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm good.
One of the main concerns is that there's a lot of people that don't wear masks and they don't believe that the vaccine even works.
Yep.
And so you walking around in the store, at the mall, on the streets with all these people that's not wearing masks. And you got to have some form of protection.
I'll be wearing a mask for a year because it cut the flu. There's half population that did not get the flu because we didn't take in the terms from wearing a mask. I just told Carmen,
stop the virus.
A couple of your masks. I'll be in this for a year. No, I'm not going anywhere without one.
Another not a consequence but side effect benefit. There was a report on National Public Radio this morning about the alcohol business in South Africa, and South Africa's pandemic numbers soared, and the government, among other things, shut down bars and even shut down alcohol sales.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that really made it hard on people who, used alcohol in their daily dinner
Life.
and lifestyle. But what they noticed was a dramatic drop in emergency room visits. People were beating up each other less,
That's right.
killing each other less.
Yep.
And those things they identify, and probably having fewer car accidents, things
Of
that you
course.
attribute to alcohol consumption. So that's a benefit. So the question is, how do you move back to where at the same time you continue to mitigate or figure out ways to benefit the learning that you got, where maybe prohibition is not the right idea long term, not sustainable, but some kind of awareness and education around moderation ought to be able to come out of this. I got another question that I wanted to ask, two questions, and I really love this conversation. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the work that you do. But two ideas come to mind that I want to ask your takes on. And one is that this model, this 6 steps of change, that's, as I'm hearing it from you, an observation and a process that those in your profession, the counselors and the therapists, use to help guide individuals to more fruitful and productive, satisfying lives. That's one. But is there a principle here, a principle in the process that can apply to the culture? How do we use the knowledge of this process for transformation and growth as a strategy for the macro transformation and growth of the society, of our people in particular? How do these tools, these strategies, how does this language enable us to stand against and grow past the crippling nature of white supremacy, of white body oppression against brown and black people? So what are your thoughts on that? Are these things too disconnected, or is there a connection that can infuse and energize our ability to be confident as we demand and move towards and steel ourselves to be the agents of change? What do you think?
I think that there are education programs like NIDCAD, Network for the Development of Children of African Descent, that instills pride and the knowledge of who we are as a people descended from Africa, of all the great things that our people have done historically and currently. And when you have that knowledge, that empowers you to take your place and to demand better treatment. And the younger generation, they're getting this. They have a forthrightness as far as a pride of self and history. And I think with that, they're out in the street all the time saying Black Lives Matter and pushing that envelope to ensure that things change. So I think we're on the George Floyd case has really been a bridge too far for us to go backwards.
Exactly.
Well,
I think we're definitely in the
are
action
stepping
stage.
up, though. The millenniums are there. They're waiting until after the trial is over. I've got 2 daughters, and they're waiting, and then they're going to hit the politics. They are not going to let the GOP ruin their lives.
That's right.
And let me tell you, if you go on, Milana's on, my oldest daughter's on Facebook. They have about 10 to 15,000 millenniums that are pulling it together and having petitions or whatever, because the Georgia thing did them. And so they're on the tail of Stacey Abrams, but we have to, because they will get us. If we don't get that Joe Manchin or whatever out,
he got to go.
then he is going to be problems for Biden, and they're going to go after it. But those kids they've got that dino like Lily. You know, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to protest, and the board members are here and the parents are here.
And I'm going to pull in everybody. I'm not going to just keep it in my generation. I'm going to go to the older generations. Yep. And it really does take everybody. And it talks, it takes, we've been doing the contemplation forever. We've been in the prep. We're still in the prep right now. And we can be doing a lot of different phases throughout everything. But I think we're doing in the prep and we're in the action. And like you said, we're, kind of waiting for the trial to get done and see what happens and see what way we need to go. So, but we're getting ready.
We only have a year and a half, and they're coming after us now.
Mm-hmm. This is always what? We may not be able to touch Manchin, but we can pick up some other red state senators, because a lot of them are on the precipice where they're sick of them. We might even get Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So that will null and void Manchin.
Well, if you've got a Mitch McConnell that has the nerve to tell corporations you stay out of politics, and I'm saying, oh no, you have to understand the people of color are no longer going to be quiet.
Brenda, this has always been a problem for us. I would encourage anybody who's listening to watch that documentary on Beulah Donald, the one who won against the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
And that was way back. That was back in, what was it, the 60s or something like that?
Anita, what was that? I didn't get it.
Her name is Beulah Donald.
Okay.
It's on TV.
Yeah.
And it's going to be on Sunday.
Okay. On where?
See, it's going to be on
CNN,
I think it's CNN.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But see, the thing is that, we don't have to reach as far back as our ancestors because they've already set the stage for us.
Yep.
And so what we need to do is we need to acknowledge that we already got the knowledge.
We do have the knowledge.
And to be very proactive in dealing with, our kids, acknowledging that our ancestors gave us really good understanding about who we are as people. And we need to stay focused on not slipping backwards.
And the thing is that even if we were not educated, there's no excuse anymore not to be educated with all the access that we have. With TV, social media, internet, all of it. So there's really no reason if you don't know not to jump on and find it for yourself.
That's a good idea too, Zoe. But the University of Minnesota got tons and tons of books on Black history. They got encyclopedias on our culture. And who would you think that goes to read those?
Not us.
Well, some of us
do, but not more right. But in history, not.
Look, we need
to do better. We need to do better. We need to do better.
But if the parents don't know,
that's right.
We get free.
Parents aren't reading.
Yes, mercy.
You got all the books, Shirley.
She does.
More than that. I ain't playing.
I know Shirley don't play, but she's not a group of right. But that's not all.
Traumatic slave syndrome, okay?
Yeah.
I think we have to stand up. I think we have to stand up to the educators.
Yes, we do.
I think that we've got to get it taught in school.
In elementary, not in college.
That the real history is in the history books.
Yes.
And Al and I will attest to the fact that at D.A. Holmes, we had some of the best teachers who taught us the history of who we are, even if our parents didn't know it.
Right.
Parents explain it.
Our parents knew.
What's needed.
Our parents knew, but they were, whipped and beat into submission to
Tell me about it.
Or be educated.
My father made 45 cents a day. And,
I mean, some got away with it. Some were able to, how they say, steal away with it. They were able to get away. But there's many people
some parents
still are pretty lost.
Yeah.
You know,
some parents passed it down.
Yeah, some parents did. And thank
My
goodness for those
father
parents. Thank
Talked about it
goodness.
all the time. That's why I'm the way I am. My parents, it was a topic of conversation.
I
And
wish
that's
that
looked
wonderful.
like a white
for
man.
my children.
But
They
his
knew it
father
all.
got lynched, and they, in the middle of the night, his mother and he and his sisters moved to Pittsburgh.
Mm,
But his father, he would never go down south again.
yeah.
Never. He was
Yeah.
20 years older than my mother. He was born in 1905.
Okay.
He died in 68 from cancer. But I grew up in a house where he was talking about how you can't trust, white
Yeah.
folks,
Yeah.
da 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 da.
Mhm.
How smart we are. We've done this. We've done that. I grew up feeling
Believe me,
confident.
we know. Al and I were
Confident
in the middle
about my
of white
blackness.
flight in Santa Fe
Mhm.
Place.
Mhm.
Confident.
And we often
Had black
write-
teachers, black principal, black gym teacher. Until I got to high school, that's when I was exposed to whiteness.
That's a beautiful thing to hear, Sherlyn, because I personally,
I know you
And-
couldn't escape here.
right, and the first black teacher I had wasn't until college.
Oh,
My
wow.
first person of color was in preschool, which was awesome.
You
But-
got lucky.
I got right, and I swear she was just the best woman ever as far as teaching children about mindfulness and meditation. It was great.
Yeah.
However,
A lot of those.
from first to until I hit college, everybody was white and everything was white education. And I grew up in North Minneapolis.
Disadvantage.
Right, and I grew up in North Minneapolis until I was 12. So, it wasn't that I wasn't with culture and stuff, but there were not many black teachers in the community
Right.
at all.
Yeah. Al and I have
That's the
often written and talked about his cousin, and who was a very, very close friend of mine, Bernard. And
What's his
I
last
couldn't
name?
understand Bernard's fearlessness
Bernard Powell.
about being action oriented, in blackness. And he used to tell me all the time, because he would sit behind me in grade school, and he would tell me all the time, you got to be proud of your brown skin.
Yes.
Don't you understand well, I really hadn't studied it that much.
Right.
I was reading fiction and Nancy Drew and all of that stuff.
Right.
And he said, you got to read about you.
You.
So the first book I had in graduate school was John Hope Franklin's From Slavery to Freedom.
Mhm.
And I tell you, that book was a mind bender. And I ended up getting a master's degree in African American studies and studying the Black man from the colonial period through Vietnam.
Mhm.
And I learned about me. And it was the start of Bernard, because he was fearless.
There's Brenda, you were right about talking about that we need to have the true history,
Yes.
of our.
She went.
Yep, she went out. Yeah, but
Well,
we do need our true history. And my kids are fighting for that. My teenagers that are in 12, 13, 14, 15, they're fighting for that in their classrooms that are mainly when they're mainly white
I didn't
cultures.
get a chance to finish because
We couldn't hear you.
Could you hear me?
No.
No, you went.
We didn't hear you.
Yeah, we have to have the knowledge so that people are not operating on misinformation.
Yep.
Our children are operating on misinformation.
That's why we have so much violence, because they don't understand.
And they don't have self-love.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's what it boils down to.
Turned inward.
Yep.
Anger turned in. The oppressed
Because we're not educated
always
about
turn
ourselves.
anger inward.
Yep.
And Al, we heard that on that podcast with Al Flower Sr. when he said, you know, we've got to get in with these kids who are so angry and let them know that they come from a people who are so resilient, so powerful, so talented, so creative. And I'm looking at Al McFarlane, who faced everything under the sun of people saying, well, slavery didn't have anything to do with me, so I don't have to answer to you. Well, yes, you do. Because we pay taxes. Our children are in your schools. You do have to answer to us.
But slavery does have something to do with them.
Absolutely does.
And white supremacy. They got privilege, unearned privilege that they don't deserve. They did nothing to earn it. They go to the head of the line just by virtue of being born
a certain color.
Caucasian, which is whiteness is a social construct.
It is.
And then within that construct, blackness is go to the back of the line, and you can never enter the frontier because we say you're not quite human.
Someone said that about Marilyn Green having the privilege of carrying a gun through the Capitol, but
you mean Margie Green?
Yeah. Park Cannon couldn't knock on a door and say,
right, got arrested.
How do you tell me that you don't want me to vote? And I just think about John, the Good Trouble, you know, when he said, you know, we're just going to have to do it. We're going to have to ruffle some feathers.
Yeah.
We're going to have to stand up for our children.
Yeah, got to break some rules.
Who was it? Dr. D, I can't think of him, Al, that we interviewed, who is the chancellor of New Mexico State. And he said, it all has to be redesigned.
It does.
We have to look at, and COVID has done it. One of my former students went in the classroom, and she had 8th graders, and she said, look, before we open a book, let's talk about what's happening in 2020. Let's get it out, and then we can go on about our business. But education, as it is, as Dr. D said, it's all got to change.
Yeah.
And
let me throw two things out. We're coming to the end of the program. This has been a rich and wonderful conversation. But as we're talking, I'm sitting here just listening and marveling at the energy that we're putting forward and the wisdom that we're sharing. So thank you. I have two ideas I want to share before we close, and these are kind of instructions for all of us. I have been watching, my wife Bobby and I have been watching a couple of things on social media recently that I want to share. One, if you don't know it, there's a sister named Karen Hunter, and she has a program every week with a brother named Greg Carr. Well, it's Dr. Karen Hunter, Dr. Greg Carr. Dr. Greg Carr is the chair of the Department of Africana Studies at Howard University. And for the past year, they've been doing this weekly podcast on Saturdays that they call In Class with Carr. And it is absolutely phenomenal. And so I want to advise and recommend and invite all of you to check them out on YouTube every Saturday, but you can get online and look for Karen Hunter or Greg Carr and just look at their archive. But they are discussing all of the issues we're concerning ourselves with. But what they're doing mostly, speaking about education, Brenda, is saying that education is more than the institution of schools. That because of technology now, we don't have to rely only Anita, on the archives at University of Minnesota. The technology gives us access to those archives and a gazillion more.
Around the world.
Our reach is virtually unlimited right now, and we simply need to make our minds up to seek, search, and engage, utilize, ingest that knowledge, and have it inform who we are and what we do every day.
That's right.
And so they are saying that even now, when you consider higher education, and not to knock higher education, but it's worth looking at the premise, the structure,
Where it comes from,
and
yep.
the purpose of quote unquote
Why
higher
they
education and the intention of higher education, depending on who created it, to produce what kind of you. How will you fit into the paradigm that exists?
Absolutely.
What will you do to support it, to grow it? And the price is, how do you benefit? It's willing to pay you to be part of its sustenance and its maintenance. The question is, if education is true, will you learn how to think more broadly, more expansively than the narrow parameters of organized education, and create models of learning that will lead to your liberation, and your liberation, sisters and brothers, is the liberation of humankind. Are we up to that challenge? They suggest that we are. So that's one thing. And then today I just listened to this other sister, I don't know her name, but the program is called Girl Boss. Anybody familiar with that?
I've heard of it.
When you get a minute, go to Girl Boss SA. SA stands for South Africa. This is a young sister. She looks like a teenager, but I am so impressed. She just holds court on the issue of Blackness, Black identity, and on the issue of African ways of knowing. Talk about African knowledge. And she goes back and has one lecture on the African creation story. And she lays that out and lays within that the emergence of variations on the theme, variations like the Judeo-Christian understanding, variations like the Hindu and the Muslim understandings. But what she does is contextualize the entire process, the body of knowledge, and places them all within the original conception or creation. And that she describes as the source of the African way of knowing. So it gives us another look. And once you have stepped outside of the stricture of white supremacist thought, you said, Anita, our children are misinformed. Misinformation is destroying us. And I respond to that in agreement with you. And the most pervasive system of organized misinformation is white supremacist thought. Yes, misinformation destroys us, and the source of much of it, the systemic presentation of misinformation, disinformation, intentional misinformation, I call it lying, is white supremacy. It's a lie. And so our job is to challenge it and to figure out how we bring the indwelling experience, the knowledge that we have, and to intuit an understanding of existence, and to trust our intuition, but to buttress it with earnest study, with research, right? So we speak with authority, and to bring those ideas forward in ways that we get challenged, but we're challenged in the spirit of illumination, of improving, steel sharpening steel, not challenged in the spirit of personal, assault on you for wanting to learn and wanting to know. How do we challenge each other so that we always invite each other to bring our best understanding, and to know that even that can be improved upon? So that's my soapbox for today. This has been a great conversation. Go ahead, Brenda.
Al, the best thing I could have done was to go to Africa to find out exactly what it's like.
Where did you go? Where did you go?
I went to Cameroon. It's on the West Coast.
Sure.
It used to be a part of Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah, Anita, I just wrote a book on a girl from Buea, Cameroon. Yeah. It's called Movuin, the face of thalidomide. And Cameroon was really big with that drug of thalidomide, where there were so many disformities and whatever. But that's
the thing about it is that when I went there, my cousin, he's the one who told me, and this was back in the 70s. He said, you really got to go there. Yeah. He said, that's the best place to go.
What part of Cameroon did you go to?
Pardon?
What part of Cameroon did you go to?
I went to Douala and Yaoundé and some of the other places. There were a few small little what we call cities. And so I couldn't remember all the cities, but I went through a lot of the area.
Did you get to Bamenda by any chance?
Yeah, went there too.
So we had a guest here one time when I did one of my series I was doing up at Sunnyside Cafe back several years ago. But the king was his name was the Khan of Bafut. His name was Acharimbe.
I went there. I got pictures. Al, you got to see these pictures I got of him.
Okay, well, he was here. He was here and visited us in North Minneapolis over on Glenwood Avenue. And I did a story on that I'll share with you as well. But
I think he went to school here.
Okay. He's a lawyer, I think.
Because he has a master's degree. I think he is a lawyer. Mm-hmm. But I went to his compound. And I seen the hut. It's called the Hut of Bafut.
Right. Yep.
I mean, it's like you know how large it is? It's about as big as it's huge. Mm-hmm. All downtown. Mm-hmm. You would not believe how large it is.
Well, they call it the palace. It's this palace, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to show you the pictures I have. I even have some artifacts from them.
Well, but you're right. Going to Africa, I think, is life-changing for us. And we don't have to go, but we should go. We don't have to go anywhere, but we should go everywhere we can. Because that's one of the ways you know and affirm what you know and discover the universality of your experience. That what we know, one thing I've said, Anita, is that like when I grew up in Kansas City, me and Brenda grew up in the same neighborhood within blocks of each other in Kansas City. But then when I went to where my wife is from, she's from Crystal Springs, Mississippi. And we would go visit her family. I love Mississippi. My mother's family is from Mississippi, not that area, but another part. So I know Mississippi from both sides of my family. But in Bobby's family, Crystal Springs, we sit on the porch. Crystal Springs is a town of fewer than 5,000 people, 20, 30 miles from Jackson. Sit on the porch and people drive by and wave. Across the street from the front porch, there's a chicken pen and a hog pen out in back, And if there's a snake in the chicken pen, one of the cousins up the street gets a shotgun, goes out and shoots the snake. And everybody says, oh, he done killed the snake. That's the kind of neighborhood it is. Well, then I told her, sitting on their porch, this is just like sitting on my grandfather's porch up in the Blue Mountains in Jamaica. And where we have property in Jamaica in the Blue Mountains, in a village called Dressiki, a place called Mile Gully. Sit on the porch and every day you see Black folks walking up and down the road, going to work or bringing produce to the market and going home in the evening. But you look at it and you study it and you say, you know what, it's the same people. And then you go to Bamenda or go to Accra or go to Uganda, anywhere in Africa, what you know for sure is that we are the same people everywhere. I submit that even if we went to Hong Kong or to Shanghai or to somewhere in Thailand or South America, we would still discover that our experience as human beings is a universal experience. There's really no difference. And it's a question of the orientation, the education, and how do we break not only ourselves from the lie of white supremacy and usher in the truth of human dignity universal. That's what I think our challenge is. And all of that boils down to what we talked about today. How do we get on path to number one, pre-contemplation, who we are, contemplation, and then the preparation. How do we prepare to move towards that maintenance of our dignity and our humanity, our full and functional selves, and how do then we act so that the actions reflect an understanding and a knowledge of what it means and what it takes. What sovereignty is in maintenance, I'm seeing and interpreting as a sense of understanding sovereignty. Yeah. When you are in maintenance, you're in the pocket, you're in the zone. You're doing the do. That's it. It doesn't mean You might not turn left or turn right, or it might not
That's
fall
right.
off, or might get knocked off. But the value of maintenance is knowing who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and doing it to the
owning
best
it.
of your ability. That's what I think. So this has been a great lesson for me in interpreting our conversation, reflecting, and packaging in it, my personal life experiences that I think are, as an observer, experiences that we all have anywhere around planet Earth.
I agree. When I
Ladies,
was in
Dr.
Africa, I
Venus
felt like I had arrived home when I went to Kenya. And they said, you're Kenyan. I mean, wherever we go on the continent, when we go there, they said, sister, you are home.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel at home. You get off and then you just feel like, wow, it just feels wonderful to be part of the majority instead of seeing one of us every now and then. And then to be among people who are so sure about their place in the world. People who know they're not below, they're above. Even the poorest ones know that they occupy important space on this earth and that they have abilities far beyond any we've been taught to believe we have. They know they can do it. They just give them an opportunity. They know they can do it.
You know,
Listen,
Al,
guys,
the
we've reached
Hamilton
well into
said
our
the
hour.
same
This has
thing.
been a wonderful conversation. I called it a spiritual conversation. Thank you all so much. And we'll see you next week, Friday, for the Healing
All right.
Circle. I'm Al
Absolutely.
McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane.
Great,
We'll see you
lady.
later.
All right.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Yeah, have a
Yeah.
good weekend.